Grandma, why is Grandpa burying something in the backyard at 3 a.m.? I should have listened to my 7-year-old granddaughter, Sophie. Instead, I patted her head and told her to go back to sleep. You were dreaming, sweetie. But Sophie's eyes, those big, terrified brown eyes, they weren't the eyes of a child who'd had a nightmare. They were the eyes of a child who'd seen something real, something wrong. 12 hours later, I sat in my kitchen staring at our Ring camera footage, watching my entire life unravel in grainy night vision green. My husband, Brett Curtis, the man I'd been married to for 43 years, retired pediatric surgeon, grandfather who built elaborate Lego castles with Sophie, was digging a hole near our oak tree at 3:17 a.m. And the blonde woman holding the flashlight? In the IR mode, a hard gleam caught at her wrist, something reflective, something expensive. The same bracelet Brett told me was stolen in Galveston 3 months ago. My mother's $47,000 diamond bracelet, the one I'd inherited when she died. My coffee cup shattered on the kitchen floor, but I didn't make a sound because I'd learned something important in that moment. At 68 years old, I was done being the quiet, trusting wife. The best revenge isn't loud, it's calculated. And baby, I was about to calculate the hell out of Brett Curtis's entire existence. If you've ever wanted to watch someone's lies collapse like a house of cards, hit that subscribe button right now, because this grandma, she's about to show you how it's done. And drop a comment telling me, have you ever caught someone in a lie this big? Let's talk about it. Let me paint you a picture of my life before that footage. 43 years of marriage. Brett Curtis, retired pediatric surgeon after a 35-year career at Mercy Hospital in Austin. Me, Rachel Curtis, former high school English teacher who'd retired at 62. We lived in a gorgeous, paid-off house in Terrytown, the same house we've raised our daughter Jennifer in. Brett's pension and our retirement savings meant comfortable golden years. Weekend bunches, book club, babysitting our granddaughter Sophie while Jennifer worked. I was living the dream retirement, or so I thought. Sophie had been staying with us for the past month while Jennifer, our only child, went through a difficult divorce in Houston. The 7-year-old needed stability, and we were happy to provide it. She had her own room, went to the local elementary school, and filled our quiet house with laughter again. But the cracks in my marriage had started months before Sophie arrived. 3 months ago in Galveston, my mother's bracelet disappeared from our hotel room. Brett was so convincing. He even filed a police report, held me while I cried, promised he'd use our travel insurance to replace it. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? This was the man who'd held my hand through Jennifer's birth 41 years ago, who'd nursed me through breast cancer 10 years ago, who still called me Rach and kissed my forehead every morning. Then came the late-night consulting work for his former hospital, the financial statements he suddenly wanted to handle himself after 40 years of me managing our books, the new cologne that smelled expensive and unfamiliar, the way he'd started putting his phone face down on every surface. I ignored it all, because after 43 years, you trust your husband, right? You give the benefit of the doubt. You don't snoop through a retired surgeon's phone like some paranoid old woman. Well, paranoid old women survive. Trusting old women get destroyed, and I was done being the latter. After watching that footage 15 times, studying every frame, I made a list. Not a crying in the bathroom list, a tactical warfare list. Because here's what that Ring camera showed me. The blonde wasn't just any woman. She was young, maybe 35, 40 tops. She moved with confidence like she'd been in my backyard before. And when Brett kissed her after they finished burying that blue tarp, it wasn't a quick pack. It was the kind of kiss that said, "We've been doing this for a while." My hand shook as I grabbed a screenshot of her face and sent it to my brother Jake. Jake Morrison, detective with Austin PD for 35 years before retiring last year, my protective older brother at 71, and the only person I trusted to keep this quiet until I was ready to blow Brett Purtis's entire existence apart. Jake called me back in 47 minutes. "Rachel, sit down." His voice had that cop-serious tone that made my stomach drop. "The woman in your video? Her name is Amber Brennan. She's been questioned in 2 embezzlement cases at medical facilities. Never charged, but the pattern's there. And Wretch," he paused, "she works at Mercy Hospital, in the billing department. She started there 8 months ago." The room tilted. Brett worked at Old Hospital. This wasn't some random affair. This was coordinated, calculated. And if she'd been questioned for embezzlement? "Jake, I need you to look into something for me." My voice came out steady, calm. The voice of a woman who just realized her husband of 43 years wasn't just cheating, he was stealing. "I need you to refer this to Medicare fraud and the hospital's compliance officer. Can you do that?" "Rachel, I can't touch protected health records without a formal case, but yeah, I have contacts at the fraud task force and Mercy's compliance chief. If they open it officially, I'll be in the loop. Give me 3 days. And Rachel, whatever they find, you need to be prepared." I hung up and stared at that frozen frame, Brett kissing Amber, both of them standing over whatever they'd just buried in my backyard. Our granddaughter had seen this. Our precious Sophie had witnessed her grandfather betraying every single person who loved him. And me? I was about to make sure he paid for every single second of it. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I opened Brett's laptop, password still Jennifer 1983 because he was that predictable, and started digging. Bank statements, credit cards, investment accounts, every digital footprint of our financial life that I'd trusted him to manage for the past 5 years since I developed arthritis in my hands. What I found made me physically sick. $127,000 in credit card debt, cards I'd never seen before, all in Brett's name. Cash advances totaling $89,000 in the last 6 months. And here's the kicker: withdrawals from our retirement savings, our nest egg that we'd spent 40 years building. Small amounts, $5,000 here, $8,000 there, always on days I was at book club or volunteering at the library. Brett Curtis had been systematically draining our retirement, and I'd been too busy being the good wife to notice. I screenshotted everything, every transaction, every statement, every lie documented in spreadsheets and banking apps. Then I created a folder on my personal laptop labeled Book Club Notes because Brett would never look there. By sunrise, I had 300 pages of evidence. I had Amber's face, I had Jake working the fraud angle, and I had something Brett Curtis would never see coming: a 68-year-old grandmother who was done playing nice. When Brett walked through the door at 7 a.m. from his morning walk, smelling like hotel soap and lies, I smiled. "Morning, honey. How was your walk?" "Refreshing." He kissed my forehead, and I let him. "A beautiful sunrise today." "Coffee's ready, dear." I poured him a cup, playing the dutiful wife one more time. "Sophie had a nightmare last night. Said she saw something in the backyard." Brett's hand froze halfway to his coffee cup, just for a second, but I saw it. "The kids and their imaginations," he laughed, but his voice was too tight. "What'd she think she saw?" "Oh, you know Sophie, monster stories." I smiled. I told her she was dreaming. Brett relaxed.
And I watched him sip his coffee, completely unaware that in 72 hours, his entire world was about to detonate. That afternoon, while Brett was at his consulting meeting, I called Jennifer in Houston.
Mom, what's wrong? She knew my voice too well. Honey, I need you to not panic, but I need you to know something about your father. And I need you to trust me that I'm handling it. I told her everything. When I finished, my 41-year-old daughter was crying. Mom, I'm coming home. Today. No, my voice was steel. You stay in Houston and finish your own divorce. I've got this. But Jennifer, when this goes down, Sophie's going to need you. So be ready. Mom, are you sure you can... Baby, I taught high school English for 30 years. I dealt with budget cuts, difficult parents, and teenage drama queens. Your father is about to learn that the quiet woman he took for granted is the most dangerous person he's ever met. Jake called on day 2. His voice sounded like he'd been punched in the gut. Rachel, you need to come to my house right now, and don't tell Brett. I dropped Sophie at my neighbor Linda's house, making up some story about errands. Linda, bless her nosy heart, took one look at my face and said, "Whatever Brett did, I hope you bury him." She had no idea how right she was. Jake's retirement condo in South Austin smelled like coffee and old case files. He had documents spread across his dining table, thick manila folders with "Confidential" stamped in red. "Tell me everything," I said. His contact at the fraud task force moved fast. "Rachel, this is bad." Jake's jaw was tight. Brett's been working as a consultant for Mercy Hospital's billing department for the past 8 months, but he's been falsifying patient charts from his old cases, claiming he did follow-up consultations that never happened, billing insurance companies for procedures he never performed, all coordinated with Amber Brennan. My throat closed. How much? $340,000 that they can prove so far. $340,000. My husband, the man who dedicated his life to saving children, had been stealing from sick kids' insurance companies in his retirement. There's more. Jake slid a photograph across the table. Amber Brennan, age 36. 2 embezzlement investigations in Dallas and Houston. Always at medical facilities. Always working billing. She's a professional, Rachel. She finds older doctors, usually recently retired, financially comfortable, seduces them, and they run scams together. Then she disappears before charges stick. I stared at Amber's mugshot. She was beautiful in that calculated way. Platinum blonde, perfect smile, cold eyes. The kind of woman who could make a 70-year-old man forget he had a wife who'd stood by him for 4 decades. Brett has a gambling problem? I whispered. Jake pulled out more papers. Casino records from Choctaw Casino in Oklahoma. He's been driving there twice a month for 18 months. Lost $190,000. Rachel, he's in deep with some bad people. Loan sharks. The kind who break kneecaps, even for 70-year-old doctors. Everything clicked into place. The mysterious debt, the consulting work, the desperation I'd mistaken for him wanting to stay active in retirement. Brett wasn't trying to stay relevant, he was drowning, and he'd planned to take me down with him. What were they burying? I asked. Jake's expression darkened. I need your consent to search the property. Then we can secure a narrow warrant based on the ring footage. I give you my consent. Do it.
2 hours later, Jake called again. APD CSU just lifted a tarp from a shallow pit by the oak. Inside, a black duffel bag cash bricks totaling $60,000, 2 burner phones, a forged passport with Brett's photo under a different name, and an external SSD loaded with offshore account information. My blood ran cold. What about a deed? You said there might be property fraud. Not buried. We found it in Amber's work email. A quitclaim deed transferring your house, the house you've lived in for 40 years, into Amber's name. Already notarized and queued for recording next Wednesday. Rachel, he was going to steal your home. I couldn't breathe. When? Jake pulled up more documents on his laptop. Costa Rica, 2 one-way tickets dated for next Friday. Business class. Brett was going to leave you, 68 years old, with his gambling debts, his fraud charges, and nothing. The house, your retirement savings, everything. Gone. You'd have woken up next Friday to an empty house, a mountain of debt, and legal problems that weren't even yours. I didn't cry. Tears were for women who'd lost, and I hadn't lost anything yet, because I was about to take everything. Jake, I need the task force to wait. Don't arrest Brett. Not yet. Give me until Friday. Rachel! Please, I need him to think he's won. I need him to believe he's getting away with it, because when he realizes he's lost everything, I want to be standing right there watching his face. I've earned that right after 43 years. He studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled, that protective big brother smile that said he knew exactly what I was planning. You've got till Friday morning, but Rachel, make it count. Make it legendary. I drove home in a daze, my mind spinning with possibilities. Brett thought he was so smart. He thought he'd covered his tracks. He thought his quiet, retired teacher wife would just roll over and let him destroy her golden years. He had no idea who he was dealing with. That night at dinner, Brett was extra attentive, complimenting my pot roast, making Sophie giggle with magic tricks, holding my hand across the table, playing the perfect grandfather and husband one last time before he destroyed us. Ratch, I've been thinking, maybe we should take a trip next weekend, just the 2 of us. We can have Linda watch Sophie. That sounds wonderful, I lied, watching him over the rim of my glass. Where were you thinking? Somewhere tropical, maybe Costa Rica. I've heard the beaches are perfect for our age, not too touristy. My hand didn't shake. My smile didn't falter. Costa Rica sounds perfect, honey. Let's do it. Brett's eyes lit up, and I saw it. The relief. He thought I'd just agreed to my own destruction, that I'd pack our bags, board a plane, and wake up in some foreign country while he emptied our accounts and disappeared with Amber. Poor Brett. After 43 years of marriage, he really should have paid more attention to the woman sleeping beside him. After Sophie went to bed, I sat in our home office and planned my next move, because Brett wasn't the only one who could play chess. And baby, this grandmother was about to checkmate his entire existence. I called our family lawyer, Martha Rodriguez, sharp as a blade and someone I'd known since she was a student in my sophomore English class 25 years ago. Mrs. Curtis, it's late. Is everything okay?
Martha, remember when you told me at your graduation that I taught you to fight for justice? I need you to fight for me now. I need to file for divorce immediately, and I need to freeze every account we have before Friday.
Mrs. Curtis, what's going on?
I told her everything, every sordid detail, and when I finished, my former student's laugh was pure venom. Mrs. Curtis, you taught me that the best essays have a powerful thesis and devastating evidence. We're about to write the best legal brief of my career. Give me 24 hours. I'm going to make sure Dr. Curtis regrets the day he underestimated you. That night, I slept like a baby, because sometimes the best revenge is knowing you're 3 steps ahead of the person who thought they'd outsmarted you. Wednesday morning, Martha called with news that made me want to dance. It's done. TRO and temporary orders. Accounts frozen, exclusive use of the house. Sophie stays with you under temporary guardianship since Jennifer designated you in her custody agreement. We'll finalize the decree after discovery and the criminal case wraps. Today, you're protected. Perfect. I felt something dangerous bloom in my chest. Justice. Pure, beautiful justice. What about the debt? The order freezes joint lines and allocates responsibility to Brett. Later, the final decree will compel indemnification and closure. Your retirement accounts are protected. Your name stays clean. Beautiful! Now, here's what I need for Friday. I laid out my plan, and Martha's laugh could have shattered glass. Mrs. Curtis, you're diabolical. This is better than any essay you ever assigned me. Consider it done. The next 48 hours were performance art. I played the loving wife flawlessly, packed our suitcases for our fake Costa Rica trip, made Brett his favorite meals, let him thank he'd won. But behind the scenes, I was orchestrating his complete annihilation. Thursday afternoon, I got a call from Mercy Hospital's CEO, David Mitchell. Jake's contact had filled him in, and David was livid. Mrs. Curtis, I want you to know that Dr. Curtis's consulting contract has been terminated effective immediately. The Texas Medical Board just issued a summary suspension of his license pending investigation. We're cooperating fully with law enforcement. And ma'am, I'm so sorry. You taught my daughter in 2015. You didn't deserve this. Thank you, David, but I'm not done yet. What do you need? I told him my plan for Friday morning. David was silent for a moment. Then, Mrs. Curtis, you're a force of nature. Dr. Curtis has no idea what's about to hit him. Friday morning arrived like Christmas and Judgment Day rolled into one. Brett was up early, whistling while he loaded our suitcases into his Mercedes. He kissed Sophie goodbye at Linda's house, promising her we'd bring back presents. Love you, princess, he said, and I watched my granddaughter, my beautiful, innocent granddaughter, hug the man who'd planned to abandon her. That's when I knew I'd made the right choice. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about protection. This was about making sure Brett Curtis could never hurt another person again. Ready, Rach? Brett asked, opening my car door like a gentleman. Ready. I smiled. But we weren't going to the airport. Oh, no. We were going somewhere much better. I directed Brett to Mercy Hospital, claiming I'd forgotten my blood pressure medication and my doctor's office was on the way. He didn't question it. Why would he? His dutiful wife had fallen for everything. We pulled into the hospital parking lot at 9 a.m. sharp. And that's when everything beautiful happened at once. FBI agents swarmed Brett's car from every direction. Jake was there with his former partner, badges out, faces hard. Martha stood near the entrance with several board members. Administrators stayed inside, but word had leaked. A KVU news crew filmed from the sidewalk. Dr. Curtis, you're under arrest for Medicare fraud, insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and embezzlement. Jake's voice rang out across the parking lot as agents yanked Brett out of the car. You have the right to remain silent. Brett's face went white, then red. Then he looked at me, standing there in my best dress and pearl necklace, phone out, recording every second. Rachel, what is this? What's happening? What's happening? I stepped closer, making sure the cameras caught everything. My voice was steady, cold, and loud enough for everyone to hear. What's happening is karma, Brett. It's justice. It's everything you deserve after 43 years of me trusting you. Rach, I can explain. Explain what? The $340,000 you stole? The gambling debts? Amber Brennan, the plane tickets to Costa Rica, the forged deed to our house, the house we raised Jennifer in? I held up my phone, showing him screenshots of everything.
I know it all, Brett. Every single thing. Your 7-year-old granddaughter saw you in the backyard with your mistress, and you thought she was dreaming. But Sophie's smarter than you. So am I." His face crumbled. "Rachel, please." "I gave you 43 years, Brett. 43 years of loyalty. I stood by you through medical school when we ate ramen for dinner. I raised your daughter while you built your career. I nursed you through your hip replacement. I trusted you with our retirement. And you were going to leave me, 68 years old, with nothing but your debts and your crimes." The reporters surged forward, cameras flashing. "Dr. Curtis, is it true you've been running an insurance fraud scheme? Did you embezzle over $300,000? Were you planning to flee the country?" Brett looked at me with something between rage and desperation. "You planned this. You set me up." "No, baby," I smiled, and it was the smile of a woman who just won the war. "You set yourself up 43 years ago when you married a woman smart enough to catch you. I just made sure everyone got to watch you fall." Jake hauled Brett toward the police car, and I called out, "Oh, and Brett, Amber got arrested this morning, too. Turns out the FBI doesn't appreciate fraud conspiracies. She's looking at 10 years, so I guess you'll both be taking a long trip after all, just not to Costa Rica. And that house you tried to steal, Sophie and I are staying in it. Your granddaughter will grow up in the home you tried to give away." Y'all, if you're not screaming, "Yes, Grandma," right now, check your pulse. Hit that like button if you're Team Rachel all the way. And comment below, what would you have said to a cheating spouse after 43 years? Because I'm living for your responses. As the police car drove away with my husband of 43 years, Martha handed me an envelope. "Tro and temporary orders. You have exclusive use of the house, frozen accounts in your favor, and temporary guardianship of Sophie while Jennifer finalizes her divorce. Final decree will come after the criminal case wraps, but Mrs. Curtis, you've already won." I opened the envelope, staring at the paperwork that protected me and my granddaughter. "Martha, you learned well. She had the best teacher. And Mrs. Curtis, you're still teaching. Every woman who sees this story will learn that it's never too late to fight back."
The story exploded across Austin like wildfire. By noon, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. News vans camped outside my house. The headline on KVU's website read, "Retired Austin surgeon arrested for insurance fraud. Planned to flee country with woman half his age." But here's what made it delicious. The internet got hold of it. Someone recorded the whole parking lot scene on their phone. Within hours, it had 3.8 million views on TikTok. Twitter was calling me #badassgrandma and #grandmajustice. Instagram influencers were breaking down the story, praising my strategic brilliance. One comment that made me laugh until I cried: "This 68-year-old woman documented evidence, froze assets, involved law enforcement, and orchestrated a public arrest. She didn't just serve divorce papers, she served a whole funeral. This is the energy we need." The support was overwhelming. Messages poured in from women in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who'd been betrayed, cheated on, financially abused. "You're our hero," they said. "You showed us it's never too late to fight back." But the best message came from my granddaughter. Sophie was at Linda's when the news broke. Linda, being Linda, had the TV on when the story aired. Sophie watched her grandfather being arrested in handcuffs, heard the reporters detail his crimes, and according to Linda, she said, "I told Grandma I wasn't dreaming. I saved us." That night, I held Sophie close and explained everything in 7-year-old terms. Grandpa made some very bad choices. He hurt people and broke the law.
So he has to go away for a long time to think about what he did. Is he coming back to our house? Sophie asked, her voice small. No, baby, but he's still your grandpa, and when you're ready, and if Mommy says it's okay, you can talk to him. But right now, it's just you, me, and soon Mommy. We're safe, and we're going to be just fine. Sophie looked up at me with those wise, old soul eyes. Are you sad, Grandma? No, baby. And I realized it was true. I wasn't sad. I was free. I'm proud of you for being brave and telling me what you saw. Proud of us for being strong. Proud that we protected each other. She hugged me tight. You're the best grandma ever. And you're the bravest granddaughter in the world. The next few days brought even more satisfaction. The hospital launched a full audit and discovered Brett's fraud went back 2 full years, ever since he'd retired but kept consulting access. Total damages, $890,000. Criminal charges were upgraded. Brett was looking at 15 years in federal prison. Amber Brennan tried to cut a deal, offering to testify against Brett in exchange for a reduced sentence. But here's the beautiful part. Jake told me the FBI didn't need her testimony. They had enough evidence to bury them both. Amber was going to serve every single day of her sentence. And the gambling debts? The loan sharks Brett owed $190,000? The Fed seized Brett's assets for restitution. After the arrests and a protective order for me and Sophie, the sharks faded. They don't like federal heat. Those dangerous men got their money through legal channels, and Brett got nothing. Absolutely nothing. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Brett tried to fight for a share of the house from jail. Martha laughed in the prosecutor's face. Your Honor, Dr. Curtis attempted to fraudulently transfer marital property to his accomplice. He planned to abandon his wife of 43 years while fleeing felony charges. He traumatized his 7-year-old granddaughter who witnessed his criminal activities. He gambled away nearly $200,000 of marital retirement funds without his wife's knowledge. Mrs. Curtis is entitled to 100% of all remaining marital assets.
The judge agreed. When the final decree came through months later, I got everything. The house in Terrytown, all mine. Brett's remaining retirement accounts, all mine. His life insurance policy naming me as beneficiary, that $500,000 was going straight into a trust fund for Sophie's college. And me? I had zero debt, a paid-off house, and my granddaughter safe at home. But the real victory came 4 weeks after Brett's arrest. I was at Central Market when I ran into Patricia Chen, one of Brett's former colleagues. She'd always been cordial but distant at hospital functions. Rachel! Patricia stopped me in the produce section. I need to say something. Yes? I owe you an apology. For years, I thought you were just a retired teacher, content to be Dr. Curtis's wife, living off his success. But watching how you handled this situation, the strategy, the precision, the absolute takedown, I realized you're brilliant. You protected your family, exposed a criminal, and dismantled his entire life with the efficiency of a military operation. You didn't just survive, you won. And you taught every woman over 60 that we're not done fighting. We're just getting started. I smiled. Thank you, Patricia. But honestly, I just did what any grandmother would do. I protected my granddaughter. No, Patricia shook her head. Most people would have cried, confronted him privately, maybe gotten a quiet divorce. You orchestrated a public reckoning. You made sure everyone knew exactly who Brett Curtis really was.
And because of you, the hospital is implementing new fraud detection systems. You probably saved millions of dollars and protected countless patients. So thank you from all of us. That conversation stayed with me because Patricia was right. I could have handled this quietly, filed for divorce, walked away, let Brett face his legal problems alone. But where's the justice in that? Where's the accountability? Brett would have spun some story about his bitter ex-wife. He would have played the victim. And maybe, just maybe, he would have done it all again to someone else. So yeah, I made it public. I made it loud. I made sure everyone knew that actions have consequences and that 68-year-old grandmothers are not to be underestimated. 6 months later, I stood in our backyard looking at the spot where Brett had buried his escape plan. The oak tree was still there, the same tree Jennifer had climbed as a child, where we'd hung Sophie's tire swing last summer. Strong and beautiful. The hole was filled in, grass growing over it like it had never existed. Kind of like my marriage. Sophie was in the kitchen helping Jennifer make cookies, their laughter floating through the open window. Jennifer had finalized her own divorce and moved back to Austin, taking a teaching position at the same high school where I'd taught for 30 years. We were a household of 3 generations of strong women. That sound, pure, innocent, happy, was worth everything. Life after Brett was surprisingly wonderful. I'd started a consulting business helping older women navigate divorce, particularly those dealing with financial abuse and fraud. Martha and I partnered up, offering a 1-2 punch of legal expertise and life experience. Business was booming. My first client was a 72-year-old woman named Dorothy, whose husband had been hiding $600,000 in offshore accounts. Using the skills I'd learned from my own experience, we tracked every penny, froze his assets, and got her 85% of the marital estate plus full ownership of their home. "You saved my life," Dorothy told me, tears streaming down her face. "I thought, at my age, I just had to accept it." "No," I said firmly. "At our age, we have nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Never accept betrayal. Not at 28, not at 68, not at 98. That became my mission, empowering women my age to fight back, teaching them that they're not powerless, that documentation is everything, that justice is possible if you're strategic and relentless, that it's never too late.
The consulting business wasn't just financially successful, it was healing. Every woman I helped, every abuser I helped expose, every life I helped rebuild, it all added layers of meaning to my own story. Brett hadn't just hurt me. His actions had created a ripple effect. But my response to his betrayal created ripples too. Positive ones, empowering ones. Brett's trial happened in October. I didn't attend, didn't need to. Martha represented my interests, and Jake kept me updated. The evidence was overwhelming. Brett pleaded guilty to 15 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement. He got 12 years in federal prison, no parole, and restitution of $890,000 to his victims. At 70 years old, Brett would be 82 when he got out, if he lived that long. Amber Brennan went down too. 9 years for fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. Turns out she'd been using fake credentials for years. The FBI connected her to 5 other doctors across 3 states. Brett wasn't special. He was just her latest mark. I received a letter from Brett 3 days after sentencing. My first instinct was to burn it, but curiosity won. "Rachel, I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't deserve your forgiveness. What I did to you, to Jennifer, to Sophie, it's unforgivable. I destroyed our family, betrayed 43 years of trust, and planned to abandon the woman who stood by me through everything. I'm not writing to make excuses. I was drowning. The gambling debts, the pressure, the shame, I couldn't see a way out except to run. Amber made it seem so easy. A fresh start, freedom from debt, a second chance. I was stupid enough to believe her. But watching you stand in that parking lot, seeing your strength and your rage and your absolute certainty that you'd win, that's when I realized what I'd lost. Not just a wife, not just 43 years, but a woman who was smarter, stronger, and more capable than I ever gave her credit for. You won, Rachel. You always were going to win, because you're a fighter, and I'm just a coward who got exactly what he deserved. I hope Sophie grows up to be like you and Jennifer, strong, fearless, unwilling to accept less than she deserves. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her that her grandpa made terrible choices, but that she should never let anyone make her feel like she has to stay quiet about wrong things. She saved you both by speaking up that night. She's already braver than I'll ever be. I'm sorry for everything. Brett. I read the letter twice, then filed it in a box labeled Jennifer and Sophie when they're ready. Someday they could decide if it meant anything to them, but for me, it was just words. Brett was sorry because he got caught. Sorry because his life imploded. Not sorry enough to have stopped before he destroyed everything. The best revenge, I realized, wasn't the arrest or the prison sentence or even the public humiliation. The best revenge was building a life so good, so full, so meaningful that Brett's absence didn't leave a hole. It just left space for better things. Sophie thrived. She started third grade that fall, confident and happy. She made new friends, joined soccer, and started writing these beautiful stories about brave grandmas and their sidekicks. Her teacher said she had a gift for writing. I wondered where she got that. Jennifer blossomed in her new job, finally free from her own toxic marriage. She started dating a kind man named Michael, a fellow teacher who made her laugh and treated Sophie like gold. I started dating too, at 68. Imagine that. His name was Frank, a 70-year-old retired architect I met at the library. We took things slow, had coffee dates, talked about books and grandchildren. He knew my story. Everyone in Austin did, and he said it made him admire me more. "You're a warrior, Rachel," he told me over coffee one Saturday morning.
I'm just a grandmother who protected her granddaughter. You're both, and that's what makes you extraordinary. On Christmas Eve, Sophie, Jennifer, and I decorated our tree in the living room. 3 generations of Curtis women, stronger together than we'd ever been. Sophie hung ornaments while singing off-key Christmas carols, and I realized this was the happiest I'd been in years, maybe ever. "Grandma?" Sophie looked up at me, tinsel in her hair. "Are we okay now?" "Yeah, baby." I pulled her close, Jennifer joining our embrace. "We're more than okay. We're perfect. Because Grandpa's gone? Because we're safe. Because we have each other. Because we're strong and brave, and we don't let bad things keep us down." She considered this seriously. "Like superheroes?" "Exactly like superheroes. You're Spider-Girl, I'm Wonder Woman, and Mommy is Black Widow!" Jennifer laughed. "Perfect! The best superhero team in Texas." That night, after Sophie went to bed, Jennifer and I sat in the backyard, looking at that spot where Brett had buried his future. The grass had grown thick and green. You'd never know anything had been buried there at all. "Mom,"
Jennifer said quietly. Thank you for fighting, for not just accepting it, for showing Sophie and me that it's never too late to stand up. Baby, I'd fight the devil himself to protect you and that little girl. I know. And that's why I'm naming you Sophie's guardian in my will. If anything ever happens to me, I know she'll be safe with you. Nothing's gonna happen to you. But yes, always. She's my heart. We sat in comfortable silence, two women who'd both survived betrayal and come out stronger. And isn't that the truth about betrayal? Eventually, you cover it up. You grow over it. You make something new and beautiful in the place where ugliness used to be. Brett Curtis had tried to bury me. He'd tried to bury my future, my retirement, my granddaughter's childhood. He tried to bury the truth under lies and fraud and escape plans. But here's what he forgot. I'm not something that stays buried. I'm the oak tree. 68 years old, strong, rooted, unmovable. And when someone tries to destroy me, I grow back stronger. Brett got 12 years in federal prison. I got my life back. My granddaughter's safety, my peace of mind, my power. And every time I tell this story, to clients, to friends, to women who need to hear that fighting back is possible at any age, I end it the same way. My granddaughter whispered that her grandfather was burying something at 3 a.m. I told her she was dreaming, but she wasn't. She was witnessing the moment her grandfather buried his entire future. And she was brave enough to tell me about it. That 7-year-old girl saved us both. And her grandfather? He's spending the next 12 years learning that some holes you dig, you can't climb out of. But we climbed out of the hole he tried to bury us in. We climbed out, brushed off the dirt, and built something beautiful. So if you're in that hole right now, if someone's trying to bury you, silence you, make you disappear, remember this. You're stronger than you think. You're smarter than they give you credit for. And your story doesn't end in the dirt. It ends in the sunlight, with your head held high, watching karma do its beautiful work. And if you're 68, 70, 80 years old and you think it's too late to fight back, let me tell you something. We're not done. We're just getting started. This grandmother proved it, and so can you. Listen, if this story inspired you, moved you, or made you want to stand up and cheer, smash that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me your story. What would you have done? What lessons did you take from Grandma Rachel's journey? Let's keep this conversation going because this is what community looks like. We protect each other. We empower each other. We remind each other that we're never powerless at any age. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, you're stronger than you know. Age is just a number, but justice is eternal. See you in the next story, warriors.